What's going on, everyone? Today we have the RTX 5050. This is the entry-level Blackwell GPU. It is the cheapest way to get multi-frame generation. So we're going to be taking a look in Cronos, the new dawn, at 1080p resolution. Now, as usual, we're going to go through it layer by layer to see what you can expect out of this card at this resolution on this title. Nothing is overclocked, and the drivers are up to date at the time of this recording. If you are brand new here, hit that little subscribe button, join the party. We'd love to have you. And if you're not new here, thank you so much for coming back. I appreciate it. So with that, let's jump into the video. All right, what's going on, everyone? We are in Cronos again. We have the RTX 5050. This is the gaming version by Gigabyte. We've got it paired with a 14600K and 32 gigs of RAM. All right, so now we are into it. We've got medium settings applied. There is no upscaling or frame generation going on at the moment. And we are at about a 6.8 gig used, or 5.6 on used and 6.8, 6.9 on allocated VRAM. Now, this card is the entry-level Blackwell GPU, so you're going to have that multi-frame generation accessible to you, which is quite nice, especially with the price point that this card comes in at. So right now we're at 70 FPS. The medium settings looks like it's a pretty good jumping off point. Let's see what we can do if we go up to high. So we're going to go to high settings, and then we only have one more, which is epic after that. All right, so that's 58, 57 FPS. So we're right here at what I would call about a 60 FPS experience. For this type of game, you don't really need to have like 70, 80, 90 FPS. Anything around 60 is perfectly fine, very playable. All right, sorry to cut there. I just needed to turn on my PCL monitor to make sure that we keep an eye on our latency as we go up in the settings, just to make sure our latency is not getting too out of hand, especially once we start to do frame generation. But right here, let's just check out what epic settings would do. Let's come down here, of course, not upscaling at all yet. So go to epic settings. And I'm thinking with epic settings, once we turn on some quality DLSS, we should be in a much better spot. Our PCL is a little high. It's at 95 milliseconds. I would like to get that down to around 50 if we could, which would be achievable through some upscaling. And we'll just see how far we got to go with that upscaling before we turn on frame generation. All right, so PCL is 95. We can do better than that. So if we turn on some quality DLSS, it's going to help our VRAM out. So our VRAM is currently at 7.5 of allocation. And if we come down here and turn on the super sampling to DLSS quality, let's go ahead and apply that. And when we back out, we should get a little break on our VRAM. Went down a hair, still going down a little bit. 7.5, 7. No, okay, didn't really do much. Should have gone down a little bit. I guess it doesn't really matter. Because we're not at 8 yet. I'm keeping an eye on that VRAM. Oh, that's why it hasn't gone down, because we're spilling over. All right, so you see VRAM S, that third one down in the yellow section. That is our spilled VRAM. So right here, it is grabbing system RAM in order to keep assets loaded into memory. That matters if you're looking at it from a technical point of view. If you're not looking at it from a technical point of view, you're getting 68 FPS. So there you go. I mean, if you want to break it down into starting to split hairs and why it's doing what it's doing, there you go. All right, so if we go down a little bit more on our DLSS, we might be able to alleviate some of that VRAM spill. Let's go down to balanced and see what that does. So this is epic settings, balanced DLSS. So that gives us a 7.17 or so gigabytes of allocated, so that did go down. So that tells me we're getting our VRAM spill under control. It looks like around when it reports about 7.5, that's when it's deciding to stop allocating and start using system RAM. So good to know there, but we are at 78 FPS, and it still looks nice and sharp. All right, so the thing is with frame generation, once we turn that on, you're going to be using more VRAM, so it'll probably spill. I'm not sure if it will even do that much, but let's go and turn on some of that ray tracing and just, you know, I'm not expecting miracles here. So let's turn on ray tracing. Where did it go? There is ray tracing. All right, so ray tracing epic. Let's go performance. So let's see what ray tracing on epic settings looks like with a performance ray trace setting. All right, so that drops us to about 58 FPS. 7.5 gigs of allocated VRAM. Not really looking like it's spilling too much because that number tends to go way up, like to 800 or 900 megabytes if you are spilling. So it looks like right here you're not actually spilling anything, and you're still getting about 62, 63 FPS. Again, we are using a pretty aggressive upscaler on performance. So at 1080p, that is basically half of 1080p. So that would be what, 540? 540p is what you're upscaling from. So, I mean, it still looks okay. Just like to call that out because, you know, you are upscaling from a much smaller number. So stuff like these little twigs and stuff that are kind of poking out, you know, they do have some gaps in them. That's just a part of, you know, performance DLSS. You do start to lose a little bit of detail, especially at 1080p. All right, but it does keep your VRAM under control, which is nice. All right, so if we did have enough VRAM left over to frame generate, this would be what would give us that answer. So frame generation is set to on. Go ahead and accept that. Now let's see what that does. That gives us 94 FPS, and it ate up basically the remainder of the VRAM that we had. And it did kick a little over into the system RAM. It looks like that VRAM S went up a little bit, not too bad. But you're still getting 93 FPS with a PCL of 42 milliseconds. So this is kind of like a decent way to play it. Honestly, this looks like it's not gonna give you too much of a hard time. The 8 gigabytes of VRAM will probably give you a little heartburn here and there throughout the game, but it's not like game breaking. It's not something that I would say like go, you know, overextend yourself on your budget. If you're looking at a card in this price range, there are some used cards out there, maybe a 3060 Ti that would come into this price range, or a 3060 that'll give you a little bit more VRAM, but you're not going to have that frame generation, which kind of, you know, on a game like this does add a lot of value because it's not a fast game and it does make things like much smoother. But we are spilling over on our VRAM. Unfortunately, 8 gigabytes of VRAM is just not quite enough for these AAA titles that are coming out even at 1080p whenever you want to introduce ray tracing. So if you don't introduce ray tracing, you should be okay. But if you do introduce ray tracing, I would use performance DLSS with frame generation and just kind of expect a little bit of VRAM spill here and there as you play, but still a nice experience, good high FPS. All right, so that's going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, please subscribe. If you're not new here, thank you for coming back and checking out my videos, and we will see you guys in the very next one. Peace.